Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And this is Ben
on Spoiled Rotten.
on that shelf.
Boom. We are here to spoil episode 7 of The Last of Us Left Behind. That is the name of this episode, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Well,
the DLC episode.
Yeah. We're 7 episodes in. How are you feeling about this season and the placement of this episode?
I think it was really, really greatly needed. Really like the symbolism of everything behind it, the mirroring, all that kind of stuff, and of course needing that kind of a break in regards to kind of how this Joel situation is going to play out, directly addressing it seems to be like a lot, and I'm like going to a flashback to kind of advance the story is kind of great in a lot of ways.
100% agree. I thought this was a really good way of giving us a breather, but also we're learning more. I feel people who've listened to our coverage would probably know I'm a big fan of Ellie in this show. So any more information I can get about her it's all good for me.
Yeah. It's to me, this is like that lovely breather that Bill and Frank brought to the beginning of that season. Because like those few episodes afterwards, like bleak, and this one's kind of the same thing. It's like bleak up until here, with like tiny bits of like really happy moments. Like that was the sad part about last episode, right? And then now it's just like, okay, well, a happy moment from Ellie's standpoint, but very much like the Bill and Frank happy moment. It's kind of doomed to end, but it starts with conflict too.
I feel like with Bill and Frank, they got to end on their terms, whereas and it's very clear in the way Bella Ramsey plays it in particular. Obviously, we'll get there. Gonna go in order, but the way Bella Ramsey plays it, you're obviously watching someone completely lose their options and feel like something's been taken away from them, as opposed to the Bill and Frank thing where they're going out on their own terms.
Yeah, and it's funny because even in that scene, we'll get there, they explore or attempt to explore other options too toward the end. So I think that's going to be an interesting discussion once we get there. But yeah, this episode starts off from the perspective of what we basically can put together as Joel being dragged behind the horse, and in the house.
They've done a bit of a jump forward in time, but it's not. We haven't missed that much. We basically missed them get into this house, and he's pushing her away, and for many, I mean, there's a clear reason why. It's I liked hearing the creators talk about his knee-jerk reaction, but also his knee-jerk reaction to his knee-jerk reaction, which is he's shedding a tear because he's like, why the fuck would I do that to someone I care about? Like when he pushes her away, it's him immediately regretting that action. But also he's upset that he's letting her down, which we talked about this last episode. But like it's happening. He's letting her down, and obviously she even let him know, like, I'm fucked if you go. So there's no real but she'll make it. Like he's really like, I've messed this up completely.
It's a weird situation because like the previous episode, he literally learns like, oh, like with the horse thing that he does, it's like, oh yeah, I wanted to give you an option, and it was like 30 minutes ago and stuff like that, right? He clearly didn't. He was like, no, please choose me. It was like this situation where he's trying to do the exact same, a very similar situation where he's like, hey, I'm trying to push you away, but like, please choose me again. But of course, he's just more overwhelmed that he's chosen, as opposed to like being in a situation where I'm like, hey, I'm gonna try to slide my way into this. He's just much more overwhelmed and more genuine in this situation that, she chose him genuinely.
Well, we haven't got there yet, but
But
yeah,
yeah,
he's
it's
he's
very
going through
similar
a
to the
lot.
previous episode. Yeah.
They're all going through. Both of them are going through a lot. So yeah,
Mhm.
she goes up the stairs and it cuts on her turning the handle, and we go into her at the Fedra school
Yeah.
doing laps, and I immediately remembered gym class, and I was like, blah.
Ugh. Laps in gym class,
And
not fun.
especially the concept of like, hey, you better pick up the pace or else we have to do more. And I was just like, yeah, I remember not liking that aspect of gym. As long as we were like playing the actual game, I'm in. I'm down for gym class. But the whole like, hey, let's do laps, let's run them out. I was like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Just let's pick teams and play basketball or whatever it is we're doing.
Yeah, the warm up to the actual thing is not fun. I mean, like, I get it,
No, yeah,
but
I'm not
still,
saying
like,
that
it's
the
not
teachers
fun.
are doing their job wrong. It's more I just
Yeah.
don't care for it.
But I mean, in all fairness, this isn't exactly gym class. This is more like Fedra school where they're training you to be soldiers, and that becomes abundantly clear.
Well, I mean, yes, but we do learn that not everyone has the option to become
Correct.
something within
Correct.
Fedra.
Correct. But there's
So it is still busy work for people.
it
It's
is
not,
very much busy
yeah,
work to be like, hey, at least there has to be some physical
yeah.
competency, and we're gonna be like, we're gonna kid ourselves into thinking running laps around a small room isn't anything other than crippling on the ankles. Realistically,
So yeah,
just
Bethany messes with Ellie's Walkman. We don't
yeah.
get to see it, but she obviously doesn't take too kindly to not only the Walkman hit, but the jab at no, it's your friend who's the fighter. You can't do anything.
Yeah.
Um, and so this is where we get into the, for lack of a better term, dean's office or the principal's office. And Ellie's kind of just like, just put me in the hole. Like I don't care about this. And I guess this guy's the creator said as well, but I felt like they were hinting. That's what I was kind of getting at when in the
Mhm.
episode with Henry and Sam, that there might be people there, and I'm not saying they're in the right, but that are trying to make the best of the whole. Well, I do want to protect the world, and they're
Mhm.
obviously part of a terrible system that will never actually let them do that, but they are trying in their own ways to do it. And so he's kind of offering Ellie the two options because he sees a future with her, which I get that she's not physical like Riley. Like we can just like there's stories told later on in the episode that say that clearly Riley was the physical one.
Right.
But it does seem like she wasn't necessarily like she's been to the again, I'm using this term because I don't remember what rank this person actually had, but like she's been to the principal's office enough times anyway. It's not like she's been in the hole multiple times as well. Like it's
Mhm.
not this isn't like she was a good student up until this point, but she's white, so she's got the path of
Still getting an option.
you could be the head of this at one day, like and
Mhm.
then obviously we'll get into it more, but they actually we can just get into it here. Riley lets her know like you have that option. They told me I was gonna do shit duty. Like that's
Yeah.
I don't have an option there. I'm 100% out on Fedra.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was interesting that um I genuinely believe that he thinks he's a good person, but he's part of a terrible situation and he's doing something. I believe he's also the person that told Riley she would never amount to anything but the people that he's telling Ellie she can shit on when she gets to the position
Mhm.
he wants her to get to.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, like you obviously are part of a bad system and not necessarily all good yourself, but
No.
he is trying to reason with Ellie here. And who knows what privilege she gets to play on with him there, but I'm assuming that's the point of showing his daughters in the picture is like he's like, ah,
Mhm.
she's like my daughter or whatever. Like he can build that up in his head.
Yeah, he can build that up and said all he wants, but I mean, like,
Yeah,
she's already displaying the privilege of the previous scene, like where no other person has a Walkman, and she's just like getting to run with a Walkman on. It's kind of like, wait, you have a Walkman and batteries? What's going on here? This is kind of
yeah,
crazy. But it's just one of those things where I think. Do you think at this point this is like a Marlene situation? Because like we knew that Marlene put her in there in the Fedra camp for a while, right? Um, or is this like how do you think this worked out now? Because I'm kind of confused on that timeline where Marlene in the first episode is like, yeah, who do you think put you in there?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of deal. So how long do you think she's been in there for now? Like, given the fact that she's been in the hole multiple
She's
times, and
only ever
yeah,
been there. That's
yeah,
what they're saying. Like she doesn't know her
mm,
parents, so she's just only ever been in that shelter
gotcha,
school.
gotcha.
I believe is what they were getting at, that she
Mm,
just grew up there. Like that
fair enough.
her whole life is that. Like anything she can remember is Fedra.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah,
Um
yeah.
yeah, so I mean, we don't know it in that moment, but it is still like, even if you don't know that he already made a decision for Riley, you do know that he is making decisions that, yeah, some of these people, they're just going to be peons, like including that Bethany person. But he's like, but you could still be under her if you aren't like following
Mhm.
what I say to do.
Yeah, the motivation that he's transferring onto her is don't pick a shittier life than you
Yeah,
have
he's like,
to.
look, you will have to follow her if you don't do what I say, but you can
Yeah.
tell her what to do if you do what I say.
It's yeah, he's not giving a lot of great options here, but at the
No.
same time, it's like you said, he's not a great person. He seems like he's a nice person, but he's contributing to a very bad system. And then
Yes.
he's kidding himself where he's like he like I don't know what the exact phrasing he says, but he says something to the degree of like he believes that he's if Fedra is the only thing keeping it all together and all that kind of stuff. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
really, you haven't really tried another way as far as I'm concerned of by
Yeah.
now, and that's the whole point of the Fireflies. So yeah,
That there could be another way. Yeah. Well, I
exactly.
mean, this episode about options very clearly. Like
Yeah.
there's, it starts with, hey, he got two options here. That's going to end with, we got two options. Is there a third
Mhm.
option? There's a bunch
Mhm.
of, yeah. I mean, you could see that throughout the season, but obviously this episode leaned into it a bit
Yeah.
more.
It's
Uh,
very much leading into that two options thing.
yeah. So I think, yeah, we're saying the same thing.
Mhm.
He might be better than some people in Fedra, but he's still part of Fedra, so that is the ultimate knock against him.
Yep.
And it's not like he isn't saying shitty things as well. Like there's one thing to be a part of it and be like, oh, I don't know, maybe it's bad. Yeah, I would still think that's bad for you to join, but
Yeah.
he's joined and clearly like built it up in his head that like, yeah, this is the way to go.
Yeah. He's justified it. He's done whatever.
Yeah,
He's rationalized it. But yeah, he's a square. That's what he is.
yeah. So then the next scene is, I keep wanting to call her Bella. Ellie is sleeping, and I genuinely, they must have done this before, but the way Riley sneaks in, and I know it's different in the DLC as well, it's
Mhm.
more aggressive, but just even the way they did it here, I'd be like, I would not find that funny at all.
No,
Like
I would be
clearly,
terrified.
clearly Riley knows her, but I was just like, I would be so upset with that. Like
Yeah.
I might even be angrier that it was you that did, like, as in Riley that did it. Like, I meant, why would that be the order? If it was someone who just thought it would be funny and I don't really care about them, I might be pissed off, but like, whatever, they're idiots.
Mhm.
Anyway, the point is, she sneaks in and pretends like she's gonna like kidnap uh Ellie until
Yeah.
Ellie really gets out of bed quickly with her knife, and you're
Yeah.
like, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, she's not playing around.
Oh, she's definitely not playing. Yeah, I too would not appreciate that way of being woken up
No.
at all, especially in the context where Ellie later on within the scene goes like, "Hey, I haven't seen you for a few weeks. Thought you're dead,"
Mm-hmm.
and that's how it's woken up. It's kind of like, "Hey, we're just, like on some messed up level." I'm joking around, and I'm like, "That's not a joke. Please don't try to kill me when I'm sleeping. I
Yeah.
will take that very literally and not have any context and want to fight back.
Yeah.
That is not good." As Ellie does, she grabs a knife immediately.
Yeah. It's out. Like it's almost like one motion, getting out of bed and getting the knife out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um anyway, yeah, this is the famous Riley, played by Storm Reed. She does a great job.
mm-hmm.
And she convinced, well, one, I think this is where she's is this like when they're still in there? Is that what she's like? Oh, I'm part of the Fireflies now.
Oh yeah,
And she's like,
she proves it
how
with the
prove it
gun.
with the gun? Yeah. Okay. So it is in the dorm room where she's like, oh no, I'm part of the Fireflies, and she's like, I told you I would do it. By the way, like I wasn't joking. And again, we get more information to make it clear like why she would be completely out on Fedra. They made it clear she has no future.
Yeah. I like how like Ellie, even in this situation, can play off the privilege of being like, hey, I can choose to take what you've been saying this entire time seriously or not in my own head. But now that it's real, it's like, wait, what? You're doing it? It's what? No, that's what Riley's been saying this whole time, as we've been told. So it's weird that like, yeah, but it is what it is.
So the plan is to sneak out for a night of fun.
Yeah, surprises.
Yeah,
Riley's got surprises. She planned a big night, and that's different than the DLC, obviously, because in the DLC, it's not a knife. She pretends to bite Ellie on the neck, and then B, in this one, it's like, and in the DLC, Riley and Ellie kind of find the mall, and like everything's a discovery, as opposed to Riley's
I like this much better because my whole thing was like, if they're just doing this, like, who's to say? And obviously, we know how it plays out. Even before this episode, you kind of get the idea that they're gonna get attacked anyway. But it makes it better to know that she's been posted up there and knows what they can and can't do, or it's reasonable to assume she knows what they can and can't get away with in terms of noise levels and other people coming. And she does say, well, it looks abandoned outside. No one's like gonna look for this. But I do like that change, that it's like, no, she's been there, she's had time to plan it, and it makes sense that it goes the way it goes, other than the unfortunate runner coming after them. But like, it's like,
no, I agree with you. I like this change better because it's just like it develops a character a little bit better, right? It's just like the fact that like,
the thought that you put into it.
Yeah, the thought that you put into it, that like everything about it, it's just like it says more about it as opposed to like, oh, we randomly discovered this, because it's just like, wait, now that you threatened me, because I can't get back to that because it's severely not cool. It's now that you threatened me and you basically have left me here for a few weeks, you want me to go out and just sneak around without a plan?
Yeah.
That seems bad. Like that's a bad proposal. So I'm much happier.
Like, I'm gonna ask you something. You're gonna say no, and then you're gonna say yes. So,
I do like that.
She's like no, and I genuinely believe she's saying no, as in like, I'm serious. I'm not just saying no because you said I would say no. Like, no, I've got school tomorrow. She's just like, yeah, great, you got that out of your system. Now say yes. So yeah, there. I did not take notes this episode, so I'm just gonna say a bunch of stuff that happens in the mall. I feel like before they even get into the mall, though, there is the conversation of like, maybe you should pick your fights. That's kind of like what the Firefly way is. I know it's not said in those terms, but it's essentially like she was a fighter and now she's learned through Fireflies how to like pick her battles, and she's trying to pass that on to Ellie as well. And Ellie is kind of like pushing back with Fedra nonsense, because why wouldn't she at this point?
Yeah, she's been promised
she doesn't have that second bit of information that would completely turn her off, but she's just like, she's still sipping lightly on the Kool-Aid for a bit now.
Yeah, that's exactly it. She was just like, well, I just had the keys discussion with Juan.
Yeah,
he gave me the keys.
Yeah. So
she's still sipping it. Just like, so they
get in there, and I don't remember the first thing, but I do remember what I love. Again, just some great Bella Ramsey acting was the, like, I don't know if it was Victoria's Secret, but the lingerie store, when that whole like Riley is like, I'm trying to picture you in that, and obviously she doesn't want to show that she likes Riley, so she goes like, shut up. But then like the way she lingers and tries to imagine herself or try to see what she thinks Riley sees or something, I really thought that was a good extra beat of like showing that insecurity, because obviously we know the sad end of this, but like you can enjoy it for a bit, the like young puppy dog crush stuff ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta, because They're not giving it to us for very long, but
no,
you're
all gonna happen in this episode.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of like rushed teenage stuff that's happening in this episode, and you're kind of like, it's kind of sad to see because you're like, especially for how normalized malls were when we were a kid, or at least like in the 90s, where this like mall is evoking that kind of time period with like Aha's Take on Me and all that kind of stuff, like, and that motif that like danger is coming because the 80s with the thing that Frank did with Tess in episode, was it 2?
3?
No, 3. Yeah, episode 3. But there's just that blossoming kind of crush here is really, really fun because she's like really, really not understanding what the old world was like, versus like Riley was like clearly understands a little bit of the old world, I think, or at least she references that later on. References at least a family or something like that.
Well,
but
that was the whole. Is that the first dead body you've ever seen? She was like, no, my parents. But I don't know if she knows more of the old world than Ellie does, because they both don't know what a screenshot is. Like that, I feel like that's a good bit of information to show you that they're pretty much on the same level in terms of what they know of the old world. I think that's what makes this and the Frank and Bill thing interesting, is they're in extreme times, but they're having just a normal love story play out. Obviously they are teenagers, so you're scaling differently. Like,
of course
it's not as deep, but obviously for them it means the world. And I think that's more what this is, because I do believe like there's enough said there for me to be like, it's not like she's worlds ahead. She's a bit older than Ellie, but she's not, she doesn't know the old world better than Ellie.
Right. Fair enough.
But yeah, I guess I skipped over when they get that alcohol from the dead guy.
Yeah, that was a weird scene. I thought that was
going to play into something more other than that's just how they get their alcohol.
That was it, and apparently that guy just partied too hard and OD'd and died. And
I'm assuming he wanted that was on purpose, though.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. Because
I don't know if it's party too hard. I think it was like this was because they make the naive thing of like, hey, no one told him he couldn't mix it with pills. But I think it's more like
it was just like,
I mean, as they said, like everyone's gonna die at some point in a bad way. Like, I guess bad because if you're basing it off the Frank and Bill thing, it's like they didn't get caught by infected or like raiders. They got caught by like a terrible disease that would have happened anyway, except for now they don't have the health system to help them out. Or so I think that kind of despair, if you're not with someone, might lead you to just be like, I'm going out on my terms.
Yeah, that loneliness and all that kind of stuff. Because they even comments like, whoa, this is from before the turn or something like that.
Stuff.
Meaning, the good stuff, meaning like properly brewed and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, not moonshine. So the fact that they were kind of just,
so I think he was like treating himself to like
he was definitely treating himself to a good death.
Yeah,
a rock star death basically was what he did. Yeah. I thought he was gonna actually like reanimate and start like doing stuff there for some reason.
Most of the episode was me being like, don't do something because something bad's gonna happen to you. Like, I guess they can do that because we know it's not gonna end well. Like, and that's not because like I certainly hadn't played the DLC and I had no idea what happened with Riley. It's just obviously the way the show is going, and they've hinted at Riley enough to know that like this isn't going to end well for them. So like they can afford to have fake outs like that where it's like, oh, no, please don't. And you can just be like, well, yeah, let them have this lucky fun thing happen to them because it's ultimately going to be bad for them.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't look at it like that, but like, it was just one of those things where I was anticipating that they would like fight them off or something like that and think they're invincible and then just get caught off guard toward the end, or maybe like get
I still think it helps them to think they're invincible because they didn't have to fight them, but they escaped falling into that hole and they've got alcohol. I think that would build up the false sense of security there.
Yeah, that's true, especially because immediately afterwards they're jumping across rooftops to get to where they need to go to the mall, which is a fun scene in itself.
Yeah, I like the
Nope.
camera work in that a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch them just jumping across the
But
rooftops
yeah, I
of
think it still
Boston.
serves the purpose that you were saying. It's just
Hmm.
they didn't have to fight anyone.
True.
It's more, yeah, them building up this sense of like what you feel like as a teenager anyway, like invincibility, and we've got our whole
Hmm.
lives ahead of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess I really should have taken notes this episode because we're all over this. But yeah, basically they get in, as you said. There's a bunch. I like that Riley is willing to be like, I guess there's 5 wonders in this mall because you really like this escalator. Like sure, we can add that.
Yeah, she's like, what stairs I move? That was a lot of fun. Like, I love the reactions that she's getting. Like, she's never been in a car. She's like, all these kind of like genuine first time reactions are really, really fun with her.
I mean,
And
I felt a way about it because when I first started dating Pauline, she really did not like it. It's not like she never heard of them, but
Mhm.
she was kind of like, "Whoa, we'll watch out on an escalator." And obviously, at this point, she's not like that at all.
Mm.
But like, I was just like, "Man, you don't have to be born in the new times to be afraid or like wowed by escalators."
Yeah, yeah. It's a fun scene. I love that she's like, okay, well, I guess 5.
Because
I do
that's the aha when they're
like.
singing
Hmm.
"Take on Me," right? Well, not
Yep.
them. The music
Uh,
is the soundtrack is playing "Take on Me."
Yes.
Um, yeah. So they're in the mall. I don't remember the order of things. If you do, let me know. But I do not remember the order of things. But obviously, they do the escalator, the video games.
Hmm.
So we get to see them actually play Mortal Kombat, and we see the Melina
Hmm.
uh, suck you up and spit out your bones thing.
Yeah.
I
The
was I was just
first
happy to
thing,
watch them. Yeah, okay.
yeah,
What was the first
the
thing?
first thing was the carousel in the middle of the mall.
Got it.
Because that was where like there was like that first bit of like tension that was built between the romance and all that kind of stuff in that kind of
Okay.
scene. And I love that like the fact that she's like, oh, she's just on the horse and just like doesn't realize that it moves and all that kind of stuff. So it's a fun scene. It's a fun scene. It's cute. It builds in that like teenage
Yeah,
love kind of thing.
I really like the way both of them played it because
Mhm.
I mean, it was clear to me, but confirmed by the uh creators that Riley loves her just as much. It's just they're both like, I can't really afford. It's just I like that Riley played it more like cool, like yeah, I felt like she was playing it more cool, but like she felt less nervous. But
Mhm.
they're saying like it is reciprocated. It's just obviously maybe because she's older, maybe she's had more experiences now that she's been with the Fireflies that she's and also she knows what she's going to do ultimately, which
Right.
is this is the last time we're ever going to see each other probably.
Yeah.
Like I actively asked if you could come with me and they said no. So like I think there's part of herself trying to protect herself that way as well.
Mhm.
Because yeah, watching it, it's like, well, yeah, maybe this is just all in Ellie's head. Like I got the sense that it wasn't, but just the way she
Mhm.
was talked about. But you could see that maybe she wins Riley over during this night, but it was just yeah, obviously Riley put all this effort into somebody she loves. And
Yes.
yeah, like this wasn't just
Because
we're best friends.
no, it's definitely not like that. It's and one of the first I like what you said. Riley plays it off cool, but at the same time she does like certain things that are like, oh, that was a tell that you're actually really, really nervous
Oh yeah.
about this right now. And it's the idea of like, oh, I've got all this planned for you tonight and all that kind of stuff. Like you don't
She also
plan
was
stuff
like
like
trying
that.
to be physical a lot, like hold Ellie's hand, and Ellie would be like, "Okay, yeah,
Mhm.
all right, enough now."
Yeah.
And so like there were I just liked the way that both of them got their moments to look vulnerable, and it wasn't a power play. It was more just like
Mhm.
they're aware of the world they live in, so it's like, um, and the creators even said like I always forget this. Like obviously for them, for lack of a better term, life as we knew it ended in 2003.
Right.
So it is like way less progress for like
Mhm.
LGBTQ, like any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Because they're
Um,
basically coming out in this whole thing.
right.
And like or they're both you can both tell they're both like hesitating. It's like, hey,
Hmm.
am I reading this correctly? Am I
Yeah, like
not?
I don't want to
And
mess it up. Like it would happen if it was male, female, but obviously there's higher stakes when you're like, well, I'm making a huge assumption here, like more than just hey, is this more than friends? It's like, are we saying we're gay together?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, are we both admitting this, or like, what's gonna happen? Like,
Yeah.
I like how she does this very, very thing where like she has an automatic out if it's not reciprocated. It's like, yep, okay, well, going to Atlanta, like that's what they're posting
Yeah.
me tomorrow,
Well,
and
Ellie does
you know,
it first though, because when they're playing the games and they get
mhm,
close, it does look like Riley went for a kiss. Or sorry,
mhm.
Ellie went for a kiss and Riley didn't go for it. And she was like, okay, I'm gonna go home now. Like it's time. It's like I can't be out too late.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
she definitely during the Mortal Kombat stuff, she's like, nope, I feel it, and she's
yeah.
like, it was just one of those moments where she's like, I guess not now. This is
Yes.
not right, and
Which also I was all in for because it made
mhm.
when they kiss, I was like, again, I was well aware of what was gonna happen. I was just like, I'm glad she got the kiss. Like,
Yeah,
but yes, I like the build up to it. That there was subtle and less subtle things building up to that moment. Um, so yeah, they do the carousel, the escalator, which was even a surprise to
yeah.
to Riley. The video games, is that when they then do the pun book?
The pun book is after the video games, which is should be noted that there is a Easter egg, like the exact same kind of replica from the video games, from the video game set.
Mm-hmm.
Raja's kind of arcade, which is like a
Oh,
Easter egg to the
Uncharted.
Uncharted series and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of cool that they got that even from a set replication standpoint. So good for them. Yay.
So yeah, they
This is
I
I don't
mean
because they
I
don't really get to many other surprises. They just
no,
get to the
because
idea of like,
this is what leads to the big blow up, which is
yeah.
I love that they, I guess I'm an easy mark, but anytime they bring in that pun book, I feel like it's such a like, the fact that I don't think that Ellie is being insincere when she laughs at these jokes, like it's
Mhm.
such a good secret weapon to have, that when you can show your character genuinely appreciate or enjoy something, not just appreciate but genuinely enjoy something over and
Mhm.
over again.
Mhm.
It just but at least for me, makes me feel way more connected to the character, that I know like, yeah, she loves these pun books, like
Yeah.
this is something for her. But yeah, so they're doing the puns, and that's when she finds the pipe bombs.
Mhm.
uh and she's like,
And
so you didn't just come across this is, you've been positioned here,
yeah.
and that's a problem. uh
She realizes those pipe bombs are going to be used on
that's for
Fedra, which
Fedra, yeah.
she's on that Team Fedra
Yeah,
full train.
and I
But
think
yeah,
this is where Riley finally is like, yeah, you have that option.
yeah,
Like they didn't, I don't have that option. They already told me what my options were.
yeah. This is where she exposes the fact that she was given sewage detail,
Yeah,
which is not fun. That is literally the shits.
yeah,
Not fun.
and it's what Joel took in episode 1.
Yep, the highest paying job because it's the one that no one wants to do,
Yeah,
just like in real life.
yeah. Well, I mean, for some things, yes.
For some things,
For some
for some
things,
things.
people are
Well,
actually properly compensated. Yes,
yes. I mean,
or better compensated.
that used to be more true. That used
Yes,
to be definitely more
yes,
true than it is now. You're 100% right.
yeah.
But
Um,
hey, it is what it is.
but yeah. So she says that. Um, she brings up Marlene, who obviously, well, that makes sense because she didn't remember her in episode 1. But Ellie does
Right.
not clue into who Marlene is. Um, but it does make sense that Marlene would then be like, but because I don't know what Marlene thinks of Ellie before the bite, but she clearly cared about her before the bite, like before she thought
Mhm.
she was the cure. And so like it tracks that she'd be like, no, if you're talking about Ellie, then no. Like I can't tell you why, but no, you can't take her. But I'm just like, I really want to know what Marlene, and maybe like I'm not saying don't spoil it for me. I'm just speaking from pure ignorance here. Of like, I
Mhm.
don't know what Marlene cares about Ellie, other than when we meet her, she already is kind of like, well, she's probably the cure because she's immune.
Yeah. No, I think that's kind of what the words I was trying to find earlier when I was talking about Marlene. in the episode, but I wasn't successfully able to do it. But that is basically the driving force. Like if Ellie's only known Fedra and Marlene's put Ellie in Fedra, and what compelled Marlene to do that other than the fact that, oh, this is a baby and we're freedom fighters and we can't take care of a baby? Maybe it's just
she knew.
I don't
Ellie's
think that would
parents.
be maybe, but even then, it's just the idea of like, oh, Marlene's the freedom fighter, so why wouldn't the freedom fighters raise a freedom fighter?
But maybe
versus
she wasn't. Maybe she wasn't a Firefly at the time.
Maybe, but again, it's just one of those things where I'm like, well, she's the head of the Fireflies at this point, so maybe she was a Firefly for quite some time. Either way, it's the whole thing's sus. I agree with you. It's just like, wait, why did Marlene put Ellie in there? And I do not know from the game. I do not know. So it's a scratcher. It's a head scratcher to me because I'm like,
information for season 2. I don't like. Based on the fact that there's only 2 episodes left, I don't know if we're gonna get that information. I mean, we could get it in episode 9, but
maybe we could.
I'm fine for that to be discussed later. It's just more like,
it doesn't seem like something that's like, wait, that doesn't add up. If I think about it,
yeah, I agree, but it's not to the point where I feel like they're trying to cheat something. Like, this feels like a really well thought through show. So I just assume that like by the end of this series, not even season, I'll know the answer to it.
Yeah, we can only hope. But either way, it's just one of those things where I'm like, I'm with you. It doesn't seem to add up to me too.
But yeah, so basically she didn't know how to say goodbye is what she was saying. So this is like, it had to happen tonight. I'm going to Atlanta tomorrow and you can't come with me. Sorry, this is me trying to just have a special night with you, and I didn't know how to say goodbye. And so then Ellie's like, well, it's pretty easy to say goodbye. You just did, and
you just did it. Yeah.
And then that's when they cut back to her in present day, right? Like in the house for a bit.
Yeah, they cut back to her in the house for a little bit.
And I guess that's to show you that like she didn't run off then. She's not going to run off this time in the present day.
Yeah, I think so. It's just that idea of like she ran off for a little bit to collect herself and then just came back or something like that. I think
she was slowing down, but I think the thing that brought her back in the Riley storyline is the scream that she heard, because I think she probably
she was on her way back already before she heard the scream, because like
I don't remember that. I know that she stopped herself from running, but I didn't see her turn back until she heard the scream.
So she got to the part where basically she got into the mall before the lights. She got to that threshold, and then she just like she like has a stall. She turns around, starts walking back towards Riley, then hears a scream, and then runs towards, and then the scream is actually the fifth surprise that was supposed to be revealed. It's the store, and it's that monster Halloween thing.
The Halloween store, but I think the idea was
that she comes back.
She comes back for the people she loves. And, even like this is the Joel timeline is a more pressing one than it was. If you're right, then she was always going to come back. But I feel like it was more like, I can't leave someone I love in danger. That's why it made sense to me that she wouldn't be actually on her way back until she hears the scream.
But in this situation, it was just like in the modern age Joel thing. To me, the stall felt more like, well, what the hell am I going to do? Like, how am I going to fix this kind of situation, right? And then, of course, she does the scavenging thing, which is great because she puts together the stitches, and that's great.
But before you see that, you see her go back to Riley. They have their lovely dance with the masks, and then they do finally kiss, which I loved, because she's like, sorry. It's like, sorry for what? And the creators were talking about like there is already a bit of bittersweetness to it, because they're like, I mean, we could have been having this way earlier.
Yeah.
If we weren't so afraid of what the other one was going to say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot caught up in those memories and that kind of stuff, especially for 2 young women coming out during that period of time. But it's just the idea of like Ellie being like, don't leave, and then Riley being immediately like, okay, and just abandons everything, just stays with her for love and all that kind of stuff, right? Just,
well, I mean,
takes the shit duty.
I don't know if she was actually gonna just stay, but she might have. But yeah,
Well, I mean, it didn't look like she had much of a choice. Like she was going to go to the Atlanta QC or something like that, right? QZ. That was at least what Marlene's plan was for her. So it's just the idea of like, if she stayed a Firefly, she would have had to go
she would have
there,
had to abandon.
and if she
being a Firefly.
stayed, then she would have to find a way to survive. So she would have to go back to Fedra and literally take shit duty. So it's just the idea of like the fact that she found love and all that kind of stuff, said yes to, and of course they're not thinking it through. They're teenagers and all that stuff.
That's more what I mean, is that she said yes in the moment, but and I'm not saying that to say like, oh, she was just saying that in the moment. I mean, like, yeah, she's a teenager, so in the moment she was like yes, and I don't know what she would have thought of, because she had a lot of good reasons to not stay there that had nothing to do with, oh well, this is where the person I love, because she already made that decision. She was going to leave behind the person she loved. But yeah, I think
she was going to leave her behind, not knowing that it was reciprocated, though, and that's like the thing I keep
but
like.
They don't have the luxury that Bill and Frank did, which was they don't have actually where safe to be.
Right. Their lives are doomed no matter what. Like she either chooses to stay Fedra or to leave. Which is to leave Ellie behind and all that kind of stuff, right?
That's what I mean, is that yes, you could know that you have that love, but you also don't have anywhere to share that love safely.
It's kind of like that whole idea of the Fedra agent in the beginning. It's like, was that a picture of his family that's still alive, or is that just him being like memories and all that kind of stuff, and him implying to Ellie like, hey, I have a family and can do this, for all that kind of stuff, right? It's different. Like at that point, it's like, is Riley taking on that role of like, yeah, I'll be in the shitty system because of love and all that, right? Which is there's a lot going on there, but the emphasis is like, yeah, it's a teenage decision. They kissed once and then they decided.
So then that's when they hear the infected coming, and well, it's one infected. And I did, for whatever reason, I really like the way Riley delivers the line, "Get ready to run." And they shoot it. They have the thing, and basically the bite like they both see each other's bites, and that's what I was thinking of, like. They didn't really have a chance to explore their love the way Bill and Frank did. So that, on that level alone, that's what makes it more tragic. And I'm saying that because the whole point of episode 3 was to show you that this wasn't tragic in that sense. It was them being able to choose, after living the life they wanted to live, how to go out. And this is them and this is these kids being like, we never even got a chance. This is well taken from us.
Of course, me bringing up the Bill and Frank thing is just kind of like just that to bring up the idea of like, this is just a breather to tell a love story that is, although tragic, is very, very fun to watch the journey of and all that kind of stuff. That still reflects it. So wasn't necessarily being like, oh, this is the exact same thing, but this is like, oh, a nice breather episode while still progressing the main story and telling a lot of character development for the origin basically of this, while still simultaneously giving us the DLC story, which is great. It's well placed, it's well everything, and I really do like the fact that they do expand on the characters, like especially Riley, complicating like the complicated nature of this, making it more like a Romeo and Juliet situation, right? It's the idea of, you're from this family, I'm from this family, and literally we're teenagers, and literally it's lasting a day, like, you know what I mean, and I'm literally coming through your windowsill. You know, it's so a lot of this is very, very much like that sweet innocent love, that blossoming kind of thing that goes really, car crashes really, really fast. But
I felt really bad for them, just
100%.
That obviously no one on this show has been able to hold on to happy moments other than Bill and Frank that we've seen. And so it was just like, oh man, like, nothing was ever made explicitly clear, but it was clear to me like this was how it was going to end.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know what ended up I guess you don't know in the DLC either what ends up happening ultimately, like other than Ellie's still alive and Riley's not around.
All you really need to know is just this is how we find out that she's alive, and maybe like this is the most likely scenario is like, oh, they went back to the Fireflies, something like that, and that's where I don't know, but this whole situation is somehow we know that Ellie got into the hands of the Fireflies after this, and she didn't turn. Yeah. So that's
even
what we do know.
If they just stayed there together,
and they were found out
because Marlene knows where Riley's supposed to be posted up, so she would go there at some point.
Yeah, and because like it's important to talk about the idea of like the options that they try to explore here. Even Riley and like you said, Ellie's acting here where she just realized that everything got taken away from her. Yeah. Like especially because it was like a love that was validated and all that kind of stuff. Like literally everything was taken away from her.
It was
she
like
freaks
her
out,
person and that person liked her back. Like it wasn't. Yeah.
She sees it on her. She sees it on her, and then she sees herself, and this is all this kind of stuff. It's doomed and tragic, and it's yeah.
I
sealed with a kiss.
It was this weird thing where I really did want closure on what happened to Riley.
Well, Riley obviously turned because
the two options they explored were kill each other now,
or we kill ourselves, right? Not kill each other,
but like, I mean,
did they ever propose to kill each other, or
because things early,
to end things early, or just like, or the second option was the second option the run Riley gives, where it's like, hey, we could just choose to like turn and like enjoy every moment until we do.
Yeah. It's just wait.
Or was that the third option?
I don't think they ever vocalized the third option, did they?
Because no, there was always like the idea of like, or there's a third option, and then it cuts.
I only ever heard Ellie say, "Is there a third option?"
Oh, is there? Right. This is mere. Yeah, I didn't pose that word that question very, very well, but this is where they discuss the third option, or at least Ellie being like naively, hey, please tell me there's a third option that lets us get out of this safe. Well, there is for you, kiddo. Not necessarily for her. I didn't
never get the sense they discussed the third option. It was
it
was end things before we turn, or wait till we turn and just enjoy it. If it's 2 minutes or if it's 2 days, just enjoy every last second of it.
Yep. And one of them does. Well,
yeah, I mean, obviously
we know they didn't kill themselves.
Ellie was never going to be able to turn, so that sucks even more for her that she'll be just sitting there waiting for that.
Yep.
Because I would. The smart money is on Riley turned. It's just, did Ellie have to kill her, or did Ellie just run away? Like it's that. Like, did the Fireflies show up and kill Riley?
I'm really hoping the Fireflies showed up and killed Riley, because
I'm hoping
otherwise it does
mean I was kind of
Ellie killed Riley. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like when she was talking about this, not the first time I killed. Obviously we've seen her kill at that point infected, but I was just like, I mean, she could have, and I'm not saying she did it out of malice. I don't obviously
right.
More just like,
is this out of self-defense kind of situation?
Yeah, there would be a self-defense moment where she just has to.
Yeah, because like we see here where like Riley kills this guy and gets this guy off of. Ellie kills the infected guy and gets him off Riley.
The actual head.
Exactly, and all that kind of stuff. So it's just that reference of like, oh, I've killed before. It could mean this. It could mean the fact that like they fell asleep together or something like that. And then Ellie woke up to Riley turned, and then maybe had to kill her, or maybe the Fireflies found out.
Yeah, which then informs why she wouldn't immediately kill Sam.
Exactly.
In episode 5.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. If I had a complaint about the episode, it would be I wish they explored. I understand they don't in the DLC. So this is faithful in that sense, but I'm like, I want to know. I want to know what happened. I'm not saying that would make the show better. I'm saying that's what I want.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I like the idea us obviously knowing the facts of what happened and not knowing how it happened. Because I'm just like, do I find more comfort in the fact that Ellie killed her, or do I want to know that the Fireflies killed Riley? You know what I mean? It's just like, what do I find more comforting? Either way, I know Riley's dead, and Ellie is not.
Again, I can assume she's dead, but there's nothing that
Oh no,
says for
she's
sure
dead.
she's dead.
Oh no, I mean the fact that she got bit and that she's not one of the survivors being shipped off, and like
she could still be alive and infected, is what I mean.
I guess so. I guess you're right. It could be one of the ideas, like maybe she's Marlene's kid or something like that, which was highly unlikely because she's Fedra.
Because she made a point of saying, "I met this woman, Marlene."
Exactly.
I feel like that's not something she would lie about, or like
exactly. So it's just like this idea of it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't really work.
And she said she saw her parents die. It's not like she has no concept of who her parents are.
Exactly. So it's this.
Well, I guess she killed. She had to kill her dad or something like that.
Maybe I don't know.
Did her parents? I think that's part of the comic. Is that the dad killed the mom and then she had to kill her dad?
Right.
It's something like that. She didn't kill both, but she had to kill one of them.
Right.
Yeah, was the idea.
It's what they're implying in that. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'm okay not knowing. I get why you would want to know, but I'm okay not knowing because I don't want to know that Ellie killed her. But at the same time, I'm like, my money's probably on that. I don't even think
it's clear that if you want to say she's dead because she's infected, then sure, I believe she obviously turned, but it's more like don't know what her actual fate was. It's not. I don't think. Like, I get why people just assume she died, but I'm just saying it wasn't made clear. So I that seems like a weird thing to let dangle. And I'm not saying it would make the show better if they told me. It's just something I would want.
Yeah, it's just bugging you. I get that. I don't get. I don't think that you're saying anything other than that. That it's just like, hey, it's bugging me that I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I kind of like that I don't know because it's more comforting to me that I don't know. And that's just me purely being selfish because I don't want to know. It's literally a Romeo and Juliet story, but yeah. Anyways,
so then we go back, and as you said, she finds the thread and needle, and she goes to work on Joel.
Yep, stitching him up,
and that's episode 7.
So 2 more episodes. So
she wasn't able. Like, I mean, I guess this is the last thing I'll say. I'm not saying they should have, but even that would have me be like, oh, I just need to know for like motivation's sake, like, is this her? If to the point of putting these two things together, I get that it's part of the DLC, but telling this story in this parallel this way, I want to know how that informs the like decision to be like, and I'm gonna sew them together. Like, it just feels more complete if I know it's like I wasn't able to do this for Riley, but I can do this for him, or were they separated? I get that you can just make your assumptions.
I think this is more telling the idea of like the parallels of like how Ellie's grown in the sense where she's like she says she's either loved has left her or died or turned or something like that, right? So the idea of her trying to save Sam in that previous episode and all, like in a few episodes ago and all that kind of stuff, and her being like, no, this way I can actually save him before he turns or something like that. I think there's that development of just overarching, like she's always constantly tried to save, but has not had the means to do so. But this is one time where she's like, oh, I actually found the means to do so and all that kind of stuff. And I think was confronted with the idea of like Joel very convincingly being like, hey, there's nothing you can do. You got to leave me because I'm going to die and you're just going to watch that. And that's stupid because you're going to die hungry and that's going to take days. That's not fun. So the idea of her actually being able to save someone this time, I think is what it's trying to show us, that Riley was completely helpless. Sam was like, hey, I have this knowledge and maybe this knowledge might help me, but this time it's just like, hey, I have the knowledge and the tools. to stitch you back up. So I think it's kind of cool from that progression standpoint, right? But I don't think there's necessarily the Riley situation mirroring this, because obviously Riley was not successfully saved in any capacity. It was just the idea of like, hey, let's crash and burn and live out every minute, which is what I assume they chose, because they didn't kill themselves.
No.
Or at least we know that Ellie didn't.
Well,
so if Ellie ducked out,
I think it was made clear they were going to choose option 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were just going to wait it out.
Yeah, they're going to wait it out, and they're going to turn, and
Ellie doesn't have the ability to turn. So.
Yeah. Yep. So that's where we find out. Maybe it was the fact that she killed Riley. Marlene found her and was like, hey, wait, you killed her and you got bit too? How long ago was that? 4 days. Hold up. I'm going to change you up for a little bit, for a couple more weeks, and ask you some questions. Yeah. Maybe that's how it went down. But yeah, that's how the Riley situation goes down. A love story, a teenage love story that goes exactly like Romeo and Juliet, except without them
they're both
committing suicide. Dead. Except not committing suicide in the ending in that capacity. But yeah, getting back to Joel, saves Joel. Or stitches him up.
I just have to assume she did, obviously. Like I know
we're making that assumption based on 2 more episodes.
Yeah, I mean, and also I know he doesn't die in part 1, so
yeah, and we also know that some of the stuff that he does when we get there.
Yeah,
but we'll get there soon enough, audience. 2 more episodes.
We'll get there. I mean, they could change it. I don't think they will. But
I don't think they will at this point. They've stayed so true to this.
As you said, there's a very important thing he does, which would make sense to keep him alive to like play that out in the show. But yeah.
And I can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah.
But it's good for her. She gets to save him.
Yeah.
Yay. But that's the end of the episode. Is her going back and him being like, yeah, you came back. I'm gonna cry.
And the way he holds her hand was amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's them showed that. Finally validating it to each other realistically without actually saying it, because I don't think they'll ever say it. But they don't need it.
They said it last episode, but yeah, this was just less theoretical now and more like the chips are down. And I'm leaning on you now.
Yeah. This is absolutely a ride or die situation now.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%. And that makes him tear up. Because let's be honest, in this situation, you'd be a monster not tear up for that. If you're dying in the middle of Calgary. Yeah. It's a sad episode. But it's a lovely episode because of the journey. But yeah, it's a sad episode. For sure.
They know how to make good TV.
Boy, do they.
Craig and Neil.
Yeah.
Knocking out of the park week after week. But this was another great episode.
I also do like that there's the knowledge of 2 more episodes coming, because like, I don't know about you, but usually when seasons of televisions have that diversion episode right before the finale, I'm like, oh no, there's gonna be a lot of ground to cover. But I forget, like, this show, they're like, the premiere was like an hour and a half. So clearly they're like, so they're like clearly they're not sticking to conventional runtime. So if they did that in this series, it's like, hey, the next season's next episode's the finale. It's just like, oh, cool. I hope it's 2 hours. But
I don't think anything is longer than an hour. I think
after the pilot,
they did 2. There were 2 hours.
The Frank and Bill one was longer, right?
Yeah.
This one was close to an hour, I think.
Yeah, all of them have been an hour in and around, other than the 1st and 3rd episode.
So you're saying that they announced the finale runtime and it's not that long?
I don't think it's an hour and a half. No.
Okay. Well, damn it. Then
it doesn't really matter because there's 2 episodes left.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm glad now that there are 2 episodes, especially if it's not like the hour and a half like I thought it would have been. But yay.
Who knows? I get the sense that those were the only 2 like super long episodes, and they obviously warranted being that long. One is the pilot and one is this intense story that they wanted to tell that is a pretty big diversion from the video game in terms of how you see their story, like Bill and Frank actually interact.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's great because like this episode is one entire DLC versus like the Bill and Frank episode is literally a side quest. It's like the scale of comparison to the storytelling and like everything like that doesn't even remotely compare to the Bill and Frank thing. But it's just like that nice little breather because I'm telling you now, it's gonna get intense next episode.
That's yeah.
It's gonna get intense. Yeah.
All right.
There was some foreshadowing with the puns here. That's all I'll say.
Oh,
but yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said the C word. Cannibals coming, baby.
Yeah.
Next episode. That's good fun.
It could be. I mean, because you played the game. I didn't play.
No, I told you I bailed like basically at second episode. Once he got to the Twin Towers, I'm like, yeah, there's too much sneaking in this game. I don't like it. And I legit got bailed. All I know now is like what spoiler people are telling me. And at this point, I'm like, it's not being spoiled for me. It's a game that I played over like 10 years ago that I have the option of playing now because I just realized that it's actually on my PS5.
There you go.
And that I have access to it. Still refuse to do it. So that's why I have no problem with everything being spoiled. Nope. Not at all. Well, maybe. I just don't like sneaking mechanics. I just really, really don't. It's not fun.
It's fair enough.
It's not fun.
Well, thank you very much for everybody for listening. We are part of the That Shelf Podcast Network with other great shows like Bad Game Movies, Black Hole Films, Contra Zoom Pod, all the great shows. So please go to thatshelf.com. You'll find those shows, our show, more shows. If you want to hear older episodes of our show, please go to tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten. Our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. Our Twitter and Instagram is @tdfspoiled. And we're on all of the podcast platforms. So please rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, follow, do all the things you need to do. Get the word of mouth out there. Yeah, I feel like that's everything. That's it. We'll be back next week for Cannibals.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.